Over the years, observing people and their behaviors, I've come to a profound conclusion. Intelligence isn't just about how much you know but about how you live, treat others, and learn from your mistakes. However, here's the main point. There are clear signs, 6 to be exact, that indicate when someone is, let's say, lacking wisdom. Before you judge or laugh at this idea, allow me to explain why it matters. Recognizing these signs isn't about criticizing others but about reflection, growth, and avoiding these mistakes on our own journey. It's also a way to help those who may not even realize they're stuck in a cycle of foolishness. So, I invite you to join me on this journey of discovery. Together, we'll uncover the 6 unmistakable signs of a foolish person, each bringing a lesson, a story, and a mirror for our self-reflection. Because the path to wisdom always begins with awareness. Ready to join me? Let's go. First sign, closed mind. A closed mind is like a fortress of ignorance, built brick by brick with fear, pride, and stubbornness. Such people not only reject new ideas, but also block their own growth. They live in a rigid bubble where everything must follow familiar rules, and anything different is seen as a threat. This false confidence often serves as a facade, as true confidence comes from acknowledging that we don't know everything. For example, there was Mark, a department manager I worked with. He insisted that old methods were best, even with clear evidence that his team was falling behind competitors. When an employee suggested implementing modern software to improve efficiency, Mark dismissed the idea, saying, "We've been doing it this way for 10 years, and it's worked fine." While other teams advanced, Mark's faced struggles. Instead of admitting the problem, he blamed the team, the market, even luck, but never questioned his rigid mindset. A closed mind not only blocks new knowledge, but also hinders the growth of those around it. Wise people, on the other hand, aren't afraid to admit they don't know everything. They're always willing to learn. Stoic philosophy reminds us that wisdom isn't about always being right, but about adapting and improving. If you notice this tendency in yourself or others, remember that embracing innovation fosters personal growth and a more productive work environment. Be brave enough to say, "I was wrong, and I want to learn." Second sign, constantly blaming others. Foolish people are masters of excuses. To them, nothing is ever their fault. A failed project? The market was tough. A missed promotion? The boss was biased. Deep down, we know that blaming is a way to avoid facing the truth. But this very shield becomes a prison that prevents any real growth. Lisa, an event planner I worked with, is a prime example. She was in charge of organizing a major conference, but when the event had low attendance, she blamed the marketing team for not promoting it adequately. However, it turned out Lisa hadn't sent the event details on time, delaying the entire promotional campaign. Even then, she kept pointing fingers, refusing to acknowledge her role in the failure. As a result, she lost the trust of her colleagues and eventually left the position. Responsibility, though difficult, is the path to growth. Wise people admit their mistakes, not because they enjoy criticism, but because they understand that truth brings opportunities for improvement. Stoic philosophy teaches us that mastering life begins with taking responsibility. If you find yourself falling into the pattern of blaming others, ask yourself, did I do everything I could? Could I have done something differently? Blaming doesn't change the outcome, but taking responsibility changes you. Third sign, arrogance over humility. Have you ever met someone who constantly tries to prove they're the smartest person in the room? This is the third sign of foolishness, arrogance. More than a mask for insecurity, arrogance is the greatest obstacle to growth and wisdom. Truly intelligent people know how to listen more than they speak, because they understand that learning is a continuous process. Michael, a manager at a large corporation, illustrates this point well. In meetings, he dominated conversations, interrupted colleagues, and even mocked their ideas. When a project failed, he blamed the team for not understanding his brilliant ideas. In reality, it was his arrogance and inability to listen that led to the failure. Humility, on the other hand, isn't about thinking less of yourself but thinking less about yourself and more about others. It's about prioritizing learning and collaboration over trying to prove something. Stoic philosophy reminds us that wisdom arises when we open our minds to new perspectives and are willing to admit mistakes and learn. If you ever find yourself caught in the cycle of arrogance, ask yourself, am I seeking recognition, or do I truly want to grow? Wisdom isn't about diminishing others, but about helping them grow. Fourth sign, lack of empathy. A lack of empathy is one of the clearest indicators of ignorance. It reflects an inability to put oneself in another's shoes, understand their feelings, or grasp what they're going through. Without empathy, people live in isolation, disconnected from meaningful relationships, and often hurt others without realizing it. This lack not only damages bonds, but also diminishes a person's depth of character. Let me tell you about Paul, a co-worker. He had a habit of complaining about project delays without trying to understand the reasons behind them. Once, when Susan, another colleague, missed a deadline because her child was gravely ill, Paul criticized her publicly in front of the team. He didn't consider Susan's circumstances, only his expected outcomes. A year later, Paul found himself in a similar situation, caring for his sick mother. Only then did he realize how his insensitive criticism had hurt others. A lack of empathy doesn't just make someone appear cold, it blinds them to opportunities for learning and growth through relationships. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true wisdom doesn't come from knowing everything, but from deeply connecting with others. Those who lack empathy not only fail to enrich their spiritual lives, but also isolate themselves, leaving a lasting impression of insensitivity. Remember, empathy isn't weakness, it's the bridge to wisdom and humanity. When you pause to truly listen to someone else, you not only help them but also gain valuable lessons for yourself. An empathetic heart enriches your world and allows you to navigate life's complexities with grace and understanding. If you notice a lack of empathy in yourself, start by listening without judgment. That's the first step to opening your heart and mind, bringing you closer to true wisdom. Fifth sign, fear of change. The comfort zone may feel welcoming, but it's also a prison. Those who fear change cling to old habits, even when they no longer serve them. These individuals behave like children afraid of the dark, hesitant to leave the familiar. But life is like a river. It flows, curves, and is in constant transformation. The wise learn to adapt, while the foolish try to hold water in their hands, only to watch it slip through their fingers. Michael is an example of this. He spent his entire life in a small neighborhood, knowing every corner and face in the community. When his now-grown children encouraged him to move to a new area with more opportunities, Michael refused. "I know everyone here. Why would I go somewhere else?" he said. Over time, the neighborhood changed. Old friends moved away, familiar stores closed. Despite his resistance, Michael realized the world around him continued to move forward. Eventually, he decided to move closer to his children. He discovered that the new environment not only brought comfort, but also opened doors he never imagined. Fear of change doesn't just keep us in the safety zone, it also prevents us from exploring new possibilities. Stoic philosophy reminds us that change is inevitable and that by embracing it with an open heart, we live fully. If you find yourself avoiding change, ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? And the best. Life doesn't stop, and if you don't learn to flow with it, you'll be left behind. Remember, change is a step toward growth, while resisting it only keeps us rooted in fear. Sixth sign, talking more than listening. Have you ever met someone who insists on knowing everything? They dominate conversations, constantly interrupt, and rarely listen to others. This is a clear sign of foolishness, talking more than listening. These individuals love the sound of their own voice, disregarding other perspectives, which creates tension and harms relationships, especially within families. Let me share the story of John, a father I knew. Every night during dinner, he monopolized the conversations. His children tried to share their experiences from school, but John often interrupted to tell his big stories. When his wife suggested changes to improve the family's finances, he dismissed her ideas, insisting that his way was the only correct one. The tragic part was that John didn't realize how much his behavior made his family feel ignored and undervalued. His lack of listening created a divide, leaving everyone feeling neglected and disrespected. Stoicism teaches us that true wisdom doesn't come from always being right, but from constantly learning, recognizing our mistakes, and striving for growth. Every trait considered foolish is, in reality, a valuable opportunity to become wiser. If you saw yourself in any of these characteristics, take it as an invitation to evolve. Step out of your comfort zone, listen more attentively, blame less, and embrace change. This journey isn't for the perfect, but for the brave, those who have the courage to look within and say, "I can do better." Remember, ignorance is temporary, but wisdom is a continuous path. And on this journey, you're not alone. Keep moving forward, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can explore more meaningful lessons together. Thank you for watching and being here with us.